Look at this, standing room only yet again for our fantastic showcase of our Beanstalks shortlist. We have our judges waiting eagerly with this. As this is a showcase, we are really just focusing only on the presentation. We're not going to do questions this time. Just give the startups chance to speak a little bit more slowly and not rush so much. So we're going to start, actually, it's this change of order, because we got 4 dialing in from overseas, from Sweden and Austria, and I think a couple from the US. So in a change to the order, I'm now going to introduce Sana and let them talk for themselves. Okay, so listen up and enjoy. We got 10 minutes.
Thanks. Okay, everybody can hear me all right? I can hear myself. Perfect. Let me just get this out of the way. Great. All right. Nice to see you all today. I'm Patrick. I'm the CEO and one of the 3 co-founders of Sano. As you can see, we're a platform for personalized medicine, and we're digital and at-home first. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do and some of our progress to date and what the future looks like for us. So everyone in the room probably doesn't need to be convinced to this, but if we look at the data, it's very clear that every year medicines are becoming more and more personal. And in particular, genomic biomarkers are steadily increasing. We've actually already seen this in cancer. About 10 years ago, 1 in 5 cancer drugs were approved with a genetic biomarker. Now the ratio is flipped. 4 out of 5 cancer drugs are approved with a genetic biomarker. And we see this trend happening in almost every other major disease area: neurology, immunology, cardiology, and so on. So it's very clear that the future is going to be more data-driven, which is great, but there's a lot of challenges and things that we need to fix to fully realize the potential. There's a couple of big challenges in the drug development pathway, and these affect both patients and drug developers. So there's enormous costs that are incurred and failure rates at the clinical trial stage. About 90% of drugs fail. Usually this is due to efficacy. It's a lot of data suggesting that genetic data can improve this. But even with genetic data, we see a significant failure rate due to challenges with recruitment and other challenges at the clinical trial stage. So there's a huge opportunity to improve this, and in particular to improve the economics and speed of the model. One of the real patient impacts is that millions of people every year die not being able to get access to drugs that actually we know to work. There's just simply a failure of the clinical trial system to effectively and efficiently get those to market. And this is a problem that we're trying to tackle. In particular, one of the big challenges is around data silos. There's more than 10 million people who've been genetically tested in the UK, for example, but most of that data is not actually easily and readily available to drug developers. So that's a big problem that we're trying to solve. Just as an example, in Alzheimer's disease, there's a number of companies developing precision therapies for ApoE4, but because patients' genetic data isn't available to the clinical trial developers, there's an enormous screen failure rate at the trial stage. It's the same case in Parkinson's, ALS, and many other diseases that are being essentially reclassified from common diseases into rarer genetic subtypes, but the data is not available to clinical trial developers to understand which patients are right for the therapy and which ones aren't. So this is the way that the typical drug development process works. There's acquisition of data at every stage of the process: early R&D, observational studies like natural history and biomarker studies, and then into clinical trials, phase 1, 2, 3, and beyond. What the impact of these silos is that there's misalignment across different parts of biotech and large pharma organizations, but also there's a lot of repeated work, in particular new data that's being generated from scratch at every piece of the process where it doesn't need to. And I'll give you who's been enrolled in a biobank like the UK Biobank or one of the other large-scale biobanks. They have genetic data, but actually it's very difficult to get that genetic data into the hands of a trial site or a clinical trialist to determine if a patient who's been enrolled in that biobank is also eligible for a clinical trial. This is an infrastructure problem. It's not that the data doesn't exist. It's just about how it can safely and effectively move around. So if it would be possible to reuse this data across the whole life cycle, it would save a huge amount of time and cost. A second example is often companies conduct natural history studies or biomarker studies, which are lighter weight than a typical clinical trial. But because of the cost and time complexities, that data is typically not then reused in a trial context for recruitment. So again, this is an inefficiency in the system that means when it comes time to run the phase 2 or phase 3, recruitment typically needs to start from scratch, which wastes time and, again, money, in particular in generating the same data sets that have been repeatedly generated. So what we do to solve this problem is we've developed what we call a patient engagement platform that sits across the entire drug development process and has the patient at the center. The patient is the key to linking all these data points together. We work with biotech companies, biobanks, as well as patient registries to build that direct relationship with participants in their research studies and enable more efficient recontact and pooling of data. And I'll give you a few examples and a little bit more about our model here in a moment. But effectively, rather than treating the process as a series of silos, we think of it as one continuous multi-year program where patients sit at the center and our software powers that interaction. What the product does in particular is three main things. First and foremost, it's a digital patient-facing platform that gives patients a way to find new research opportunities that are relevant for them, to consent and do pre-screening to take part in those. The second piece is an at-home testing suite. In particular, we focus on saliva-based genetic testing for pre-screening for personalized medicine trials. And we're also adding additional data enrichment modules. In particular, medical records is the next one we've rolled out. It's in the US right now, but we're working on the same module in the UK and other parts of Europe. So what this provides in general is a way to create really high-quality data sets that are access directly to patients, genetic data, and other high-quality clinical data, crucially with that recontact capability and no longer just generating individual data silos. Our software has been applied in more than 20 different precision medicine programs from large pharma, biotech, biobanks, and patient registries. We've worked across a number of disease areas from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease in the neurology space to rare diseases like alpha-1 antitrypsin. And the product was developed, first and foremost, co-developed really with patients and participants. We worked extensively with the 100,000 Genomes Project to co-develop the platform with rare disease patients and participants that are part of that program. And we do regular design sprints with participants to make sure it's friendly, easy to use, and we've built with accessibility in mind. We're in the US and UK now. We've just started to expand into Australia, and we're expanding into Europe next year. In particular, the Netherlands will be our first non-English language speaking deployment of our product. The way the business model works and the way that we price the platform is we charge a subscription for access to the platform, and then there's additional volume-based pricing for genetic testing or analysis services and recruitment through our network of recruitment partners. And these include the patient organizations we work with, recruitment companies, and other sources. So ultimately what it is an end-to-end platform that allows precision medicine studies to be run much more quickly, cost effectively, and with the patients at the center. Our average contract today is about $300,000 US, and this can range pretty significantly. Our largest contract is about $250,000 or $750,000, and we're disease agnostic. The only area we don't work in is tumor sequencing. So we work basically in everything that has to do with germline DNA testing. In terms of competition, there's a wide range out there. The way I can boil down our strategy most simply is that our strategy is actually the inverse of companies like 23andMe. Rather than building a vertical and closed ecosystem that only a small number of companies get access to, we're building a horizontal platform that enables every pharma, biotech, biobank, patient registry to get access to a similar scale and quality of patient experience that you might expect from a consumer product, but built for research. Just to wrap up here, a couple more slides. Our long-term vision here is to build a platform that enables both patients to get access to their own data and have control of how it's used, and also precision medicine developers to get access to linked genetic and medical data with the ability to recontact patients at a very large scale. Our ambition is global. So as I mentioned before, we started in the UK and quickly moved to the US. We're expanding to Australia and Europe in the next year. Just a quick recap here. We're working with a number of leading precision medicine, biotechs, pharma, and biobanks and patient registries that I mentioned. We're generating significant revenue, average contract size about $300,000. Our major USP to pharma and biotech in particular is that we help them to significantly accelerate their precision medicine programs. So we can on average go 5x faster than the siloed modular approach that I showed you before. A final point about the business is that our product and tech is ready to scale and go multi-language. As I mentioned, we're rolling out into Europe next year, and we've built the tech from the ground up to make going multi-language really straightforward. And then finally, just a plug for the audience is we are hiring a lot of engineers and sales and commercial people. So if you're interested, then grab me afterwards or email me. My email will be on the last slide. We'd love to work with you. We've recently closed another funding round and are getting ready to grow again. So thanks very much. And my email is on the screen if anyone from any of those groups that I mentioned wants to get in touch and learn more. Thank you.
Patrick. So you are exhibiting. Have you got a place out there?
No.
You don't? Okay, well, this is what he looks like. Find him. Okay, so do we have someone on the line now? We've got two on the line. So I think we're going to go to, so first of all, we have the Sophie Group of Austria, is that right? With their Edupression, which is an online depression therapy. No, we're going with the other one. Okay, we're starting with Tada Medical from Sweden, who have Relink, which is an advanced breakaway connector for IV lines. So I will step aside and let the screen do the talking.
Thank you so much. My name is Katarina. I'm co-founder and CEO at Tada, based in Stockholm, Sweden. And 2021 has been an amazing year for us. We managed to get the company ISO certified, and we managed to do a grand slam, which basically we got three of the biggest grants, 5.5 million euros in total, that we partly share with hospitals and the consortium partners. And there is a reason why we got this money. It's because the problem that we solve is so huge. We found the problem when we spent time at the Children Oncology Clinic to identify their unmet needs. And all of their children will need several infusions, such as you see on the pictures. And no matter what the nurse does, there's always risk for accidents when the tube gets ripped out from the patients, causing pain, and if it's toxic medication, it leaks. And it's obviously not good for the patient, but it's neither good for the nurse and the environment around them. So we looked around at other areas and realized that the problem is so much bigger than just the kids. There are almost 17 billion tubes used annually, and almost half fail on mechanical complications. We were looking at the dislodgement rate, and on average, there are 10% that get ripped out during use that we encountered at a Children's Oncology Clinic. And the consequences are patient injury, loss of expensive medication, and also toxic exposure for healthcare personnel. It takes on average 30 minutes to reinstate therapy, and it costs, just the dislodgements in Europe and US cost 28 billion euros every year. When the problem is that something breaks, the standard solution is to make it stronger. We did the opposite. We made it weaker. This is from the office where we just demonstrate our breakaway connector. So when it's pulled, it breaks into two parts, and you can easily clean it and reconnect it again to rapidly reinstate therapy. To the left, you have examples of traditional solutions that connects the tube stronger and stronger to the patients. But according to several studies, this approach does not help. What we have been doing with our weak link solution is that we've reduced the consequences of IV dislodgement, as well as preventing it in the first place. Relink is a platform technology where each area, that gravitational IV, for instance, or all of the different areas have unique advantages for the specific target. The first product, as I mentioned before, Relink Care, is CE approved and can be sold straight away. Then the next one that we're working on is Relink Advanced Enclosed System. We are developing both in pipelines, and we have studies lined up, 3 clinical trials next year in Sweden, Spain, and Portugal. So we are looking for regulatory approval for these products soon as well. The digital Relink comes with monitoring and digital functions, which will enable home care with infusions. And Relink Vet, we are working with the only Swedish university for animal care and looking into how we can improve their infusion markets as well. Almost 17 billion tubes needs to be safeguarded. And each of these are growing. The opportunity is basically growing. The link care for gravitational IV, that's growing with 6%. If you look at the closed system, it has a CAGR of 26%. So it's huge numbers, and these opportunities even grow. Since it's so many, we are looking into a business model where we are licensing out the IP and possibility of working with different large business-to-business players that are already on the market. We have been talking to several of them, larger players, and we have this system that internally where we give out first information, and then when it's NDA in place, etc., we can share more. But we have been doing a lot of mapping and analyzing, and we are soon down to finished with that. We're also looking directly at hospitals just to prove market and get the product rolling. And there is a tender opening up in Stockholm and Sweden in the beginning of next year. So we're working on that. Well, it's next year, but it's we have meetings in the beginning of the year. We are targeting out of the total addressable market, we're looking into addressing 10, and out of those we want to manage to get 900 million by 2027, and that is, as I said, with this licensing model. And it is in this estimate we're calculating with some of the ones that we are already talking to. This would give us a target turnover of 120 million euros by 2027. So we have this amazing team. I'm an engineer with an MBA and work with product and business development. Rebecca has a PhD in engineering sciences. Christopher is a medical doctor. We are the 3 co-founders, and then the rest of the team is handpicked and amazing. All in all, if we put together all the patents within the team, it's 87 or something like that. And quite a few have PhD postdocs or have a career before from consultancy. We are also very lucky with lots of partners and collaboration partners, and close and quick access to product and business advisors in product and business development is obviously will speed up the entire process. So we have both research partner, hospital partners, and innovative. Since we're looking at the licensing model, that we are both proving market and scaling at the same time. We are looking into having a bridge round opening basically as I speak. We'll have a meeting with our investors to target that down next week. So we're looking into a bridge round of 650,000 euros to then have a round next year. So the bridge round will basically take us proving market and qualifiers for an A round. And please get in contact to me if you want to be part of either the first or the second. And you have my information there. And I will look forward to your calls. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're now, do we have our second virtual one? No? So we're needing live. And Cello, are you here? Katja, brilliant. Thank you for saving our lives. And not for the first time. All right, I will just hand the stage to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katja. I'm a CEO and founder of Cello, where we make accessing cells very easy and at large scale. So I'm here to talk to you more of what exactly we do. So if I ask you, who are you? Different people would come up with different explanations or definitions. Someone may be a businessman, a researcher, a scientist, an artist. So it really depends on who you are and what you associate yourself with. I'm a biologist, so we can also say that people are a collection, very sophisticated collections of cells. There are about 30 trillion cells in our bodies. They all communicate with each other and do different jobs. And us scientists were really keen to study these cells because they are unique, just as unique as we are. So how do we get a hold of cells? So the most easiest way is just to get a piece of tissue by performing a biopsy. We get millions of cells, but it's a super unpleasant procedure. Another way that everyone is familiar with is saliva. So it's a cheek swab. We get dead cells that are useful for DNA extraction, and it's really widely used. We also find cells in blood, and these are routinely assessed for every single medical test. And what people know less about is urine. So everybody knows that we can do biochemical tests on urine, which are very informative. But what people know less about is that there are also live cells shed in urine. They originate from the kidneys. And there is a bit of a debate what kind of cells they are. So some scientists say that these are mesenchymal stem cells because they can be grown in the lab extensively and are really useful in research. So we can't find the cells in any other biofluid apart from maybe bone marrow. So you wouldn't have kidney cells in your blood. So urine would be the only place. We can replace some of the biopsies by studying cells shed in urine. We can also reprogram these cells into truly stem cells, induced pluripotent stem cells, which can replace blood samples and skin biopsies that are currently used to do that. And we can also multiply them in the lab and manipulate them in the lab, for example, to test drugs. And the information we get from that is super useful because, as I said, all the cells are unique, just as we are. So why is it that no one has really heard about this fact? Like I'm sure in this audience, probably most of you hear about this for the first time, that there are live cells that we lose every day just down the toilet. So because it's really difficult to get them out of urine. So this is a current workflow that we rely on. So we need patients to come to the clinic where they provide sample for us. And then we have a 4-hour window in which the sample has to be transported somewhere where there is a big centrifuge. And we have to separate cells from urine by centrifugation. And the whole process is really inefficient. So people are reporting different things. Sometimes you get cells in 1 out of 10 samples. Some people say they can get 8 samples out of 10 with cells. And there is a lot of kind of inconsistencies in what people report. And the reason I know about this is I experienced these limitations firsthand. I did my PhD project studying these cells. So it was really frustrating to having to run between hospital and laboratory, bringing this urine pots and then centrifuging them and then not getting cells in a lot of cases. So I've decided to change this. And we now have a solution to this problem. So we can actually stretch the 4 hours to 24 hours, which would enable live cell collection by mail. So we've developed this cell catcher, which is a collapsible cup that people can pee in. Then they get rid of the urine down the toilet. The cells are preserved in here. Then there are a couple steps that a person has to do to supply them with a really happy environment that they're comfortable in, and then they can be mailed back to the lab. So we have 2 products. So one is the cell catcher, which is our ultimate goal for home use. And in the meantime, this is slightly easier to make and launch. So this is cell catcher clinic edition, which has a slightly different configuration, but works by the same principle. So you get these cell pods with live cells that can be used to transport cells from the clinic to laboratory, which also saves a lot of effort to clinicians and researchers. So if we look at the market, like who actually needs it? What people don't realize that a lot of research relies on cell work. We all know about mice, but what people don't know about is that most of the research happens in vitro using cells. So this is our entry point. We are focusing on primary cells and kidney function test, which is where this technology would be used straight away. We have a lot of interest from cancer researchers, as depending on your clinical status, there may be tumor cells shed in urine in the case of kidney, bladder, and prostate cancers. But the biggest of them all is biobanking. So conventional biobanks rely on storage of various tissues and biomaterial, which is super difficult to collect. It takes a long time. It's super difficult to maintain, as everything is frozen, and it has to be done for a long time. So here we can really disrupt this place and space with our technology, because it would be on-demand sourcing of cells from anyone, thanks to our technology. And the serviceable and achievable market is around 100 million. So this is our vision in more detail. We would like to create a database which would contain demographic data, genotypic data, and clinical profile of potential donors that customers such as pharma SCROs, researchers would access and select cohorts of patients that we would source cells from. Nothing of this like exists at the moment because nobody really looked into urine as a novel source of cells. So once again, this is our product pipeline. So we're focusing now on developing the technology. And then we're moving into a service space, which would be this virtual biobanking. We have relied on a mix of funding so far. So we've been through several accelerators, such as Rebel Bio, SOSV, P4, who I've met here at Deep Science Ventures. We also secured funding from a charity, Kidney Research UK. We formed collaboration with the Great Ormond Street Hospital and UCL, where we are currently based. And what we're looking for our next step is another round of 425,000 for us to scale up the manufacturing and develop the virtual biobanking platform. So this is how I will spend the money. I always upfront and have a plan on how the money will be spent. And this is our team. So I work closely with Bonnie, who is a cell culture specialist. And we also have on board a designer and a prototyping CAD designer who develops all these amazing and cool looking things. Our scientific advisor is Professor David Long, who is a nephrologist based at Institute of Child Health at UCL. And we also have a business person on board who helps us with all the strategy and planning. Thank you so much for your interest. I hope I kind of you learned something new. And here are just a few quotes from my letters, which may be not there, but people really meet it with a lot of excitement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So who'd have known we were flushing so much DNA down the lake? So that was a revelation for me. That's my number one thing I've learned actually at Giant this year so far. How are we on the virtual side, Steve and Dan? No? Okay. So next on my list is elasticist. Do we have elasticists here? Sorry, no. So Novolans aren't able to make it, are they, from Spain? And then we have Remedium Bio. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so Remedium Bio here from Boston, and they believe that any disease can be cured by gene therapy. I will leave the stage to you. I'll give you a 3-minute warning. Sure. 3 and a 1. All right, just keep a wee time. Sorry? Oh, we're just restarting the live stream. So just give me, I don't quite start yet. Let's wait for my signal.
I'm Frank Lupino. I'm the CEO of Remedium Bio. We're a US-based Boston area gene therapy company developing treatments for serious disease. Our approach is to use novel combinations of technologies that are already proven And we believe that by using such a modular approach, we can streamline product development a bit, de-risk it slightly, and when combined with selection of the proper target indication, we think we can create opportunities for significant value creation early in the development phase. And we think we've done that with our lead product for osteoarthritis. We're currently raising additional seed capital that will fund a significant collaboration with Tufts University, a local Boston university, and their renowned osteoarthritis laboratory that's evaluating our construct. And we believe results from that study will support a transformational Series A in 2022 and put us on a path to exit in 3 years. Here we go. OA, it's a significant problem, not only for the 1 in 7 adults who suffer from the disease, but also the healthcare system in general. And sadly, with OA, there are no approved therapeutics that actually alter the progression of the cartilage loss associated with this disease in any way. There are approved treatments, certainly, and there are a number of therapeutics, but they're all palliative only. They mask the pain of OA for short periods of time. The only way to even slow the rate of cartilage loss associated with OA is to actually remove your entire joint in a joint replacement surgery. So this lack of successful therapeutics is certainly not for lack of trying. Because of this significant unmet need and very large potential market, a number of compounds have been tried and a number of therapeutics have been tried that have all failed, all except for one. Repeatedly injecting a growth factor, human fibroblast growth factor, FGF18, into joints of arthritic patients has been shown in clinical study to actually increase cartilage thickness. But this treatment modality is limited by the same issue that limits all potential OA therapeutics delivery. Since cartilage is avascular, without that blood flow, systemically delivered therapeutics can't get to the site in sufficient quantities to achieve clinical benefits. You'd like to deliver locally, inject right into the joint, but whatever's injected into the joint clears rapidly. So you can't maintain therapeutic concentrations long enough to achieve significant benefits. So these limitations, as well as the significant potential of FGF18 treatment in OA, are evident in the clinical studies for this, in clinical data for this treatment modality. So these data here come from a 550 patient phase 2 clinical study that was evaluating osteoarthritis in knee-OA patients and evaluating repeat injections of the FGF18 protein. Cartilage thickness was measured by MRI over a 2-year period. And the results showed a couple of things. Number one, the placebo group, as expected, loses cartilage over that 2-year time frame. But as you increase the dose and increase the frequency of the FGF18 injections, you actually have a very nice dose response curve. And at the highest frequency and dose, you actually get statistically significant increases in cartilage thickness. A couple challenges with this approach, though. Number one is that as soon as you stop these continual injections, you lose those gains. And number two, it's impossible to optimally dose this approach because there's only so many times you can inject patients. So that the best result in this study was obtained with a treatment regimen of 3 weekly injections every 6 months. So if you have bilateral OA, that's 12 injections a year forever. So Remedium, we believe we can solve these challenges. We use gene therapy to reprogram the cells of the arthritic joint so they express therapeutic levels of the FGF18 protein to create an environment that's conducive to cartilage health, the potential for a single injection to stop or reverse cartilage loss. Our solution, it's a simple solution. We like to call it an elegant solution, and importantly, it's a proprietary solution. We're simply taking the DNA instructions for coding the FGF18 protein. We package that into a proven delivery vector. We've chosen a viral delivery vector, an AAV2 serotype, because it's the vector of choice for joints in that it transduces the target cells very efficiently. And also, it's used in an approved product and products in development safely at doses that are orders of magnitude higher than we're going to need. That construct is injected into your joint. The cells within the joint get transduced and they express the protein. It's important to note this is a local, not a systemic gene therapy. It's really an ideal application for gene therapy. And to be sure now, you need some cartilage present because this product works by stimulating chondrocytes. So if your disease has progressed to the bone-on-bone state, it may not be for you, but the market, the prevalence and incidence of OA is so large that even mild and moderate patients, this is an opportunity that can be measured in the tens of billions of dollars. I mentioned streamlining development up front. So our product is really just a combination of elements that have already been clinically validated and in many cases approved in other products. And the pharmacology here is already proven. So at its core, what we're doing is using gene therapy to have your own body express an endogenous protein within physiologic limits to treat a disease, osteoarthritis, where that protein is already undergoing clinical development and regulatory review. So we like to say the path is not only cleared for us, but it's really paved here. And with osteoarthritis in particular, the preclinical, early stage in vitro, ex vivo models that you use, they're well established. And certainly in the case of FGF18, the outcomes are correlated with subsequent in vivo clinical outcomes. So we think very early on in the development of this asset, we can unlock significant value in the eyes of a strategic partner. And that early stage work is underway. I mentioned up front a collaboration we have with Boston area university, Tufts University, and the renowned osteoarthritis laboratory. This is a laboratory that's been studying OA, cartilage degradation, and regeneration for a number of years. And we have a very comprehensive collaboration underway. It's important to point out up front, this collaboration is assessing 100% Remedium-owned IP. It's a sponsored research agreement, but we've got in vivo, ex vivo studies, and in vitro studies. And the outcome assessments, as I mentioned, comprehensive here. We're going to be having multi-arm for all of our studies, looking at the protein itself, along with our gene therapy, so we can correlate some results to the clinical data that I showed previously. And the output from this collaboration will do a couple of things: publish the data, create some buzz around our unique approach to treating OA, but also to support a transformational Series A raise about the middle of 2022, not that long from here. I mentioned, I think a couple of times, the possibility to create value early in development here. That's for a few reasons. We really feel like a number of factors are converging on this lead asset to create sort of a perfect storm. Number one, OA is a big market, but certainly for disease-modifying OA therapy, it's a huge market. And number two, gene therapy deals, unlike traditional pharma deals where you're expressing a protein with a known pharmacology, are happening very early in development because it's de-risked to some extent. Once you demonstrate, you can get that expression. And three, in the OA market in particular, the market is currently dominated by medical device companies that make artificial joints. Large pharma, large biotech isn't really playing in this space, and it's too big of a market to ignore. So we think there will be a lot of interest for our approach. I don't have time to go through it, but I have several examples of here of significant value being created throughout the development process. So this fact is driving our strategy. We intend to exit this lead asset at the IND readiness stage, either by IPO or to a larger strategic partner, and we'll take it through clinical studies. We think it'll take us 3 years to get there. Total spend of $20 to $25 million to get there. As I mentioned, right now we're raising additional seed capital to get us comfortably on the other side of the Tufts data and through a Series A, and then it's on rails to get to IND readiness and execute here. And we have a team that can get this done. My own experience, I've been in the life sciences for 3 decades. Almost 2 of those, I was at a company called Danica Therapeutics, the chief operating officer there. While there, I brought several of the leading OA products to the market that are on the market today. We licensed those successfully to J&J in the United States, developed a cell-based cartilage regenerative product, not for OA, but for focal lesions. My co-founder has also worked in OA, and we know gene therapies as well. So we know OA, we know how to create value in OA. We're working with advisors who know the OA space as well. So we have the team to get it done. And we think we have the right approach, the right team to crack the largest unmet need in rheumatology. That's our story. And this is me. If you want to talk, I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. We're going to play Startup Roulette again. Who do we have? Do we have anyone on the line? Is that... I don't have my numbers here. Is that Human Health or is it Elasticys?
No, this is Elasticys.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So let's start off with. So we're ready to go live with them. Hello. What's his name? Simon. Hello, Simon. Where are you dialing from today?
Sweden.
From Sweden. Which city are you in? You in Stockholm?
Piteå.
All right.
Piteå.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So we got 10 minutes. Are you timing yourself? Because I don't think you'll be able to see me. But
no, it's fine. I can time myself.
Lovely. All right. We're not doing questions today. So you take the floor and give it your best shot.
All right. Thank you. Oh, we're live up. And I'm the sales manager at Elasticys. Now, a quick introduction to Elasticys. We're a Swedish company, and we're experts in cloud-native security, operations, and compliance. And we specifically work with companies in the medtech industry, helping them both with security and compliance for their applications. So if you have some kind of, or if you're developing some kind of software application that runs in the cloud, that's where we can come in and help with compliance. So let me just share my screen here. All right, so Elasticys are the creators of the open source project called Compliant Kubernetes. And Compliant Kubernetes is used by various customers in heavily regulated industries, and specifically the medtech industry, to both achieve the high security demands that you need for a platform handling patient data, and also to achieve GDPR and patient data law compliance. So when we built Compliant Kubernetes, we specifically looked at the demands set forth in GDPR, patient data laws, and also the security best practices for handling European personal identifiable information from the European Data Protection Board, as well as the security best practices for security hardening a Kubernetes cluster from NSA. And all of this tied together with the ISO 27001 controls, which is also relevant for customers handling sensitive data. We built the Kubernetes distribution around that. So Compliant Kubernetes in itself, it's a Kubernetes distribution that's open source. And we also built this using open source software. So we haven't actually developed specific applications to solve logging ourselves, but we rather looked at the open source landscape and community and packaged the best of breed open source solutions to fulfill the needs of medtech companies. So instead of companies having to solve all of this by themselves, they can use our platform to get started on developing an application and build application features, because that's, I mean, the real value that a company delivers to that is using the application. So instead of having to figure out how to, on a Kubernetes level, comply with GDPR and patient data laws, we already done that for you, and you can focus on application development. So if we dig down a little bit into the details in the Kubernetes platform, you need to be able to do access control, for instance. You need to be able to see who has done what. You can't just have one account for all your developers, but you need individual accounts and individual access control. So we can solve that in Compliant Kubernetes with a project called DEX that we can connect to the identity provider used by the developers. We ship Compliant Kubernetes with a complete logging stack based on Elasticsearch. So you have both the Kubernetes audit logs, which you need for auditing purposes and so on, but you can also have your application logs. So you don't have to set up a separate logging solution for your application. We ship a logging stack within Compliant Kubernetes. We also ship a solution for backups because, I mean, obviously, if you're handling patient data, you need to make sure to take continuous backups and to store them in a good and secure way. So we can handle backups as well. Now this little Viking helmet labeled continuous compliance is really cool because that lets us enforce policy as code in the Kubernetes clusters. And this, I mean, one problem when it comes to IT security is that humans make mistakes. And with policy as code, we can make it impossible for humans to make certain mistakes, such as pushing a development container image to the production environment and so on. With Open Policy Agent, we can enforce a lot of policies that will then help you as an app developing company stay compliant with GDPR, patient data laws, and so on. We also ship Compliant Kubernetes with a container registry called Harbor. And within that container registry, there's a function called Trivy that does vulnerability scanning of all your container images. So obviously, if you're selling a solution to hospital and so on, you have to make sure that you don't have known vulnerabilities within your code. So we can make sure to alert you of all those vulnerabilities with Trivy. Also for unknown vulnerabilities, we ship Compliant Kubernetes with Falco, which is a tool used to detect unknown threats. So Falco pretty much learns the behavior of the Kubernetes cluster and can notify you if something weird is happening. Think of it as an antivirus for a computer. Falco is kind of the same. Also, if you're developing an application and you want to sell it as software as a service, you don't want to set up a separate Kubernetes cluster for each end customer purchasing your application. So with Calico, we can segment the Kubernetes cluster and segment the end users. So for instance, end user A can't connect to end user B's database and so on. Also, with Cert Manager, we can make sure to automatically update any certificates continuously. And yeah, also, of course, capacity management is really important, but that's solved with Kubernetes itself. Also, all of this is monitored with Prometheus, and then graphically visualized in Grafana. And then we can also set up alerts and so on. So this is open source. You can take this and run this on whatever cloud you want to. But at Elasticys, we also offer this as a managed service to our customers. And that's where the real value comes in. And also for GDPR compliance, it's really important to evaluate what clouds you're running your service on. So we at Elasticys are not a cloud provider, but we offer this on selected cloud providers. So, so for instance, if you have an application running storing European personal identifiable information, you don't want to run that on American cloud providers, because we're seeing an increasing demands in Europe right now that for purchasers of SaaS solutions, that they really want to make sure that the solution falls under EU jurisdiction. And that is really troublesome then if you're running your application on American cloud. So we can run compliant Kubernetes on EU clouds for healthcare companies to ensure GDPR compliance and patient data law compliance and so on, and enable you guys to better sell your SaaS application to the European market. Yes, and I can also show a little bit what it's like to be a user of compliant Kubernetes. So all of those applications would be part of the managed service that we provide. But for the actual users, there's no need to learn the ins and outs of Falco. For the actual application developers using compliant Kubernetes, you will get access to application logs and audit logs, of course, application metrics, and also application alerts. And you will have access to working Kubernetes API, as well as the container registry. Now, we don't say that you specifically have to use a CI/CD pipeline, any specific CI/CD pipeline, but rather you can decide which CI/CD pipeline you want to use, that your developers are comfortable using, and then connect that to compliant Kubernetes. And that's what the application developers will use in compliant Kubernetes. And then the super user will have the possibility to create network policies and also decide on role-based access control in the Kubernetes cluster. Yes, so I think my time is running out. But that was quickly an introduction to compliant Kubernetes and Elasticys and what we can do to help medtech companies sell their services better in the European Union.
Fantastic. Okay, Simon, I think that's it. I don't know if you can hear us. Can you just give us your face, if you can? Is your face there? Say bye-bye. Give them a round of applause anyway. Maybe you can hear us. Who knows? All right. So I'm expecting either Weaver or do we have Edupression? We have Edupression live on air from Stockholm. Okay. Well, and who's presenting? Dan. Okay, Daniel, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, can you see anything? Can you see
no,
our
I
lovely
can't see
audience?
anything.
Okay, we have a lovely,
Great.
we have a packed audience who are actually feeling much, much warmer than they were outside. So you've got, we're not doing questions today, but you have 10 minutes. Are you able to keep your own time? We're quite strict.
My connection is not working at all.
Okay. Bear with.
And the
Okay.
screen sharing.
So we can see you now. All right, and if you got the screen share there, it worked fine for the previous person, so I think we're all right on this end.
It's no, I'm sorry for that. And also to this now.
Just 1 minute, we'll wait. It's just coming through the relay. Yes, we can see the French Revolution.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So no, we've got that, Dan. All right. So you ready to you ready to go?
Yes, of course. Okay. Hi,
Okay,
ladies and
10
gentlemen.
minutes starting now.
Vienna. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Hi from Vienna. I'm not direct in London, unfortunately, as we have lockdown here in Austria. So I will come back here to you with the revolution in mental health. At the very beginning, I would like to introduce you to our journey at depression. It was a sunny late summer day several years ago. The last warming rays of the sun were shining on our terrace table. The leaves on the trees were already beginning to change color. A dear friend had announced his arrival at short notice, and we chatted together. After a while, we said goodbye as usual. All the best and see you next time. We both went our ways. The next day, I got a call from his wife. He had took his life this morning. I learned that he had been suffering from depression for a long time. He never spoke to me about it. Thoughts of why came over me and gave me way to other questions, perhaps accusations over the next few days. What if I had been more aware of his health situation? What if I could have helped? What if we had understood his illness better? Well, I believe we have to dig deeper. It's necessary. Depression is a huge problem, not just since the COVID pandemic. More than 300 million people worldwide are suffering from depression. Hundreds of thousands of people commit suicide every year. My friend was one of many. What's actually going wrong at the moment? So many people suffering, dying. A general challenge with mental health, it is often not visible to others, not measurable. Everything else in medicine, we have numbers, data, facts. We measure and interpret our blood values. We use imaging techniques like X-ray, MRI, or ultrasound. And what do we do when patients suffer from depression? What possibilities does our evidence-based medicine currently offer? How do we measure the course of the disease, an improvement, a deterioration, a recovery? Nothing of the sort. We have no or only very few standardized methods of observation beside expert assessments. But the new path is actually opening at the moment a real opportunity. Imagine if we could objectively determine depression. Imagine we could track the course of depression objectively. Imagine we could predict depressive episodes in advance. We have the tool in our hands, each of us, our smartphone, and the technology is called digital phenotyping. So, what's digital phenotyping now about? First of all, let us clarify the term phenotype. The term phenotype is used to summarize the visible characteristics of an organism. The phenotype is determined by the environment and the genotype, whereby the term genotype refers to the genetic composition of an organism. You might compare your digital phenotype with that of a fingerprint. What is now a digital phenotype in regard to depression? the totality of the information that the patient generates, an individual fingerprint. Just remember, phenotype is genotype plus environment. These types of data, active data and passive data. Active data is the data the patients enter themselves, their actions, their feelings like, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling hopeless, I'm feeling tired, without energy. And fingerprint. So what does this now mean for depression? We're on the edge of a revolution in mental health. From the black box to visualize the illness, diagnostics of mental health and early detection on the one side, active therapy options on the other side. The diagnosis of depression always requires two perceptions. On the one hand, the patient's perception, and on the other hand, the experience and perception of a diagnostician. Thus, in depression, the genotype is the patient's self-perception or the active data side, what patients feel and document themselves, and the passive data side, that is what a trained expert perceive, the passive data side. These are mobile data and environmental data, as already mentioned. Self-perception is very often distorted and is then objectified with the external perception. So, where does edupression currently stand in these developments? Edupression right now has three pillars. The first is psychoeducation, which you will find as essential part of all therapies, be it drug therapy or psychotherapy, based on all international guidelines, be it in German as Drei-Leitlinie or the NICE guidelines from the UK. Secondly, edupression is a fully fledged therapy for patients suffering from mild to moderate depression, based on cognitive behavioral elements, effective and efficient, at least as effective as face-to-face psychotherapy, and at a fraction of the cost. That is what we know until now from our clinical studies. And thirdly, edupression is a measurement instrument. We have, like no other therapy program on the market at the moment, fully implemented the active data side, our medical mood chart, the PHQ-9 questionnaires, psychological procedures such as Stroop, NMAC, and many more. As already mentioned, we are conducting 2 clinical trials with edupression right now. An efficacy study where we compare edupression placebo control group and a study in regard of TRD, therapy-resistant depression. Let us make a short deep dive into the preliminary results of our efficacy study. Here we find already graphically clearly recognizable group differences, which show that there's a clear therapy response. That means a PHQ-9 symptom reduction of more than 50% in the intervention group after about 3 months. On the x-axis, you find the duration of use in weeks, and on the y-axis, normalized depression severity, PHQ-9 is plotted. The intervention group received edupression, while the control group, its active control, received the placebo version of edupression, the same looking app without effective content. So we clearly see that edupression is an effective instrument to treat unipolar depression in a mild to moderate form. So what are our next steps? First of all, we applied for DIGA registration in Germany as a digital therapy for unipolar depression 1 day ago, so that we can be prescribed by doctors and psychotherapists and reimbursed by social insurance companies. Secondly, we are committed to further develop our diagnostic capabilities using digital phenotyping techniques. And what we believe is certain, however, is that already now we can reduce the number of patients suffering from chronic and treatment-resistant depression. It is also certain that we can already offer many people help that they would never have received before in this quality and scope. Looking back what we already achieved, we are sure to be able to detect in the future depressive episodes in advance and be able to prevent them with rapid therapy intervention. I hope in the future other patients will be spared the fate of my friend. So thank you so much for your attention, and it was a great pleasure speaking to this audience.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you for making your time in Austria. That was quite a sobering story, wasn't it? So I think we got Weaver next, which is fantastic. We have you in person, which is delightful. So do come up onto the stage. And who do we have presenting? Sune? Emmanuel? Yes. Lovely. And your role in the organization?
So I'm the Market Development Director.
Market Development Director. All right. I'll give you a 3-minute and a 1-minute.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, hello everyone. I'm Emmanuel. I work at Weaver, and I'm not from health tech or med tech. I'm from fintech. I'm here to talk about embedded banking, embedded finance services, and how we work with digital platforms and marketplaces such as health tech, med tech, or wellness platforms. I actually joined Weaver in January 2020, and I was employee number 6. We have seen since grown quite a lot. We are about 40 plus employees now. We've gone through 3 rounds of seed funding. We've raised $14 million. We've got some amazing VCs backing us. Headline, QED Investors, Anthemis, and Seedcamp. And we're currently raising for Series A, shortly about to close. So what do we do at Weaver, or what is our vision? We're basically an open platform for embedded finance, and we are here to try to disrupt. We're not the only disruptors, but we certainly have a very unique model in order to enable digital platforms, digital marketplaces to actually embed, to bring the bank into the application. And we do this in a way that is very cost effective, and also provide a very fast route to market, because we can do that in the space of as little as 5 weeks. It was supposed to be animated, but obviously something's gone wrong. But I wanted to start with how payments, or perhaps how you think sort of payments work today for digital platforms in your space, whether you are in med tech, health tech, whether you're in telemedicine, whether you provide clinical trials or wellness application. You're going to have an ecosystem where you're going to have different parties to your service or to your products. You're going to have your suppliers, you're going to have your manufacturing, you're going to have your distribution, you're going to have your R&D labs, you're going to have your service providers, maybe your clinicians, your pharmacy for medication fulfillment, and then you're going to have your end users, and you're going to have your customers. Of course, all of these different services and products require you to process payments, to take payments, or to make payments. So typically, you're going to have your payment gateway and your float account, which is typically a PayPal or a Stripe, which is where you receive payments. So those are your pay-ins, typically from your users or from your customers. And then you're going to have your various banking relationships. It could be because of the type of services or the type of products that you have. You may need to have different banks. Depending on the type of jurisdictions or countries that you operate in, you're going to need also to have different banks. The result here is that in order to scale a business, such a model in terms of payments that support a core service is very complex. The payments are typically very slow, clunky, and very costly. And from a user experience, from a UX perspective, usually it's pretty horrible, whether you are a supplier or an end user or consumer. It's not a very nice UX to have. So this is where Weaver comes in. So we effectively bring the bank. All our services are white labeled, and we can bring in all the different type of services that you would normally use as part of external banking, such as IBANs, direct debits, cards, wearables, bank transfers, Google Pay, Apple Pay, all those kind of services that all of us are familiar with, we can bring in app. And you can not only bring that within your application, but you also can bank the entire ecosystem that you have as well, depending on the models that you want. So you can bank your suppliers, you can bank your manufacturers, your distribution, your as well, especially if you have a subscription model. And you therefore do not need the external banking relationship because everything is brought within the app. In terms of the type of use cases that I am currently working on and discussing and onboarding customers on, we have a number of platforms that work across a range of different use cases like telemedicine, medication fulfillment, the sort of health service with a concierge type of service, if you think about fertility platform, or perhaps, if you want as sort of parents to be in terms of surrogacy journeys, you're going to have different steps across all these journeys. I've gone through it myself in the US, so I know it's quite complex, from, the initial sort of diagnosis to, perhaps needing, egg donation, having to do the journey abroad, having to open escrow account abroad, etc. All of this is very complex, lengthy, and very costly. You also have wellness and health benefits platforms, especially within the employee benefit space.
2020, I had to have a really serious look at what I was doing and how I could really serve my community better. And I think the one thing that really struck me as a doctor was how much of COVID was affecting people who are vulnerable, with chronic diseases, and who really had disease that we know is preventable or at least modifiable. And that's huge and very, very upsetting, I think, for most healthcare practitioners. My husband, who's a graphic designer, said, great, well, you're a doctor, go and do something doctory. And he was right, and human health was born. And really, I started just talking to my existing group of patients who are really keen for help with their existing chronic diseases, particularly around their gut health, hormone health, symptoms like anxiety, and fatigue. And it's really grown from there. So I'm looking for funding to help me increase our membership and really to create an online education platform, because this is something really struck me, was how little people understood about their health, and also to train more healthcare professionals to face the same direction as me. My vision is that every single person in the UK will want to dial up to speak to a human health doctor to discuss their health, rather than calling up to ask for another tablet or an operation to help with their illness. So the current landscape at the moment is that we are living longer, but we are not living healthier lives. We have got a real treat and not prevent mentality. And of course, there's a huge lack of information. Dr. Google, influencers, bloggers dominate the medical health arena, and this is deeply upsetting for me. The NHS service, as we know, we don't need to go into that further, but it's in trouble. And really, I think this saying really couldn't be more pertinent than any time now. So what could be a solution? I propose a holistic one that really incorporates a deep dive into cellular processes, really understanding what's happening, looking at that genetic loading of the gun before lifestyle factors pull the trigger. We are very, very aware of how epigenetics can be modified, and this is powerful information in the right hands and with the right direction. So that's attained through cellular testing, and of course then creating a personalised care plan. Who do we target? Well, I'm certainly talking to my patients, who are mostly women. They are between the ages of 35 to 55. This represents a huge, huge proportion of the population. And this is over 9 million plus people, basically, with a very large market share. These women are computer fluent, they are digitally savvy, they are financially independent, and they want to help. And they're going to the wrong places at the moment for help. So I'd like to introduce Human Health to you. This is a doctor-led, patient-focused membership program that really creates a very personalised cellular deep dive into patients' health, with a real program to support them through a journey. We do this through the fact that we're doctor-led. We have a functional medicine approach, which, again, as I've kind of outlined already, it's this genetic understanding of cellular processes on a genetic level combined with lifestyle factors that are modifiable. We create a personalised health solution, and really importantly, we support people in a community. Our members become part of a human health community and a membership there that is really supportive. So not only do they dial into weekly sessions where they can find out about inflammation and how that's furthering their difficulty in weight loss, for example, but it also provides a huge internal support network. They become their own support, which is really, really powerful, because we want people to be responsible for their health. This is all deliverable online, and we are delighted there's such an incredible wealth of fantastic science out there that really helps us deliver this information through genetic testing, through gut microbiome testing, and also hormonal health. We also combine this with wearables, so people are able to use this, for example, with the Oura Ring or with continuous glucose monitoring as well. The process, this is the flow, and really quickly just to outline it, people dial in for a discovery call. We make sure that they're the right fit for us, and vice versa, because there is a lot of work to be done and they need to be ready. we're ready. Are they ready? There is the one-to-one deep dive, which is at least an hour of consultation time with a doctor, followed by this creation of a personalized plan. And then the 3-month health journey is created, where they are seen by myself or a specialist nurse every 2 weeks for an intensive period for 3 months. They are also able to join in on these group sessions, which allows us to disseminate medical information on a fantastically wide level. They then can drop down onto a maintenance program. So I'm delighted that we launched this in January of this year, and we've been running now for 10 months. And we have, and I've invested quite a lot of my own money into this, but we have managed to deliver 67 health assessments. We have enrolled 30 members, and we have raised over £80,000 worth of revenue, with an average spend between £2,000 to £2,500 per person. And we're delighted that we've been able to affiliate ourselves and partner with some fantastic brands like Mindful Chef, Fitology, which is a women's only gym, and as well as the clinic, and other important platforms that are going to facilitate education for healthcare professionals. We've had some great feedback, which is the most important bit, really, that over 78% of people have really described that they've had significant improvements in their health in a relatively short period of time. 9 out of 10 of them would recommend us on to family and friends. And to me, the fact that we get these sorts of testimonials where I've signed up to Human Health and I can genuinely say it feels like this is the thing I've been waiting for my entire life. And for me as a doctor delivering this, I know that this is the medicine that I've been waiting to deliver my entire life. There are several revenue streams within what we're delivering, but these are all scalable, and things that we can add to, including packages that are, bolt-ons, as it were, where people can pay for more testing, the wearables, prescriptions, and the online education aspect as well, if they wanted to. And there are people out there doing things that we're doing, but I think no one's doing it in the collaborative whole way that we are. And this is really key. I think for us, the fact we're offering the one-to-ones with patients, the group sessions, and the online access is actually our silver bullet, as it were. And that's been really powerful for us. So our go-to marketing plan is really doing more of what we're doing already, which is marketing and associating ourselves with local clinics, be it medical or aesthetic ones, and also local gyms. We have got lots of marketing plans digitally, including pay-per-clicks and social media marketing. We work with a PR company to raise our profile in some serious health journals and broadsheets. And of course, our word of mouth has been our most powerful tool really to date. So this is the team. We are all passionate and driven, and we're all absolutely immersed in this. So it's fantastic to have a group of people behind me that are helping drive this. This is our plan. I think the most important bit for me is the next step would be to really go for it with the online education platform to offer information to the general public, where they're then able to access and pay for more one-to-one help, where they can actually sign up for programs, which would then take them forward. Then, of course, the training for doctors and coaches. So I'd like to end with my why. And I know that when I see a woman who's come to me, who's absolutely on her knees, and they often are, and they're often been sent in by their husbands and on the verge of divorce or about to lose their job, that bit of me that actually can help communicate and understand and put all the pieces of that jigsaw together comes alive. And really, it's not about relieving suffering so much, it's about letting these women really flourish and excel. So thank you.
Very much indeed, Moni. Okay, so by my expectation, I am going to have Anastasis Biotech. Is that correct? Lovely. And what's your name? Karima. Okay, lovely. And what's your role with the company? You're project manager. Lovely. All right, thank you. Well, I'll give you just a 3-minute and a 1-minute. Okay, and the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Karima, and I'm project manager at Anastasis Biotech. We're a therapeutics company with a unique drug delivery platform that allows us not only to block 2 cancer-causing mutations that affect 14 million people globally, but also to be developing an antiviral therapeutics that can specifically target the replication of our lovely little friend SARS-CoV-2 virus. As I mentioned before, the core of our business is our drug delivery platform that's based on a antennapedia, which is a cell-penetrating protein. It can go in and out of every single cell unannounced and undetected. And the uniqueness and beauty of this platform is that we can attach whatever therapeutic molecule that we like, and it will be delivered to all cell types and subcellular compartments, such as nucleus. And most excitingly, this protein can cross the blood-brain barrier that can open this whole new avenue for the development of intracerebral therapeutics, such as Alzheimer's drugs. We are testing the efficacy and safety of our drug delivery platform on 3 different systems, 2 of which are cancer drugs, S4 and AB1, that target the Notch mutations and P53 mutations, which are the most common mutations in cancer. And also we are developing an antiviral therapeutic that specifically targets the enzyme that is crucial for the replication and survival of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now, I would like to talk a little bit more about each of our products. Our first product is S4 product. And in biology, we have different pathways, and they have to be switched on or switched on at particular times. And when this balance is disrupted, disease occurs. And cancer is probably the prime example of these diseases. And in Notch mutated cancers, that are 40% of all cancers, Notch mutation is overactive, and it causes cancer stem cells, which are the driving force of tumors and metastasis, to continually grow and divide, which obviously leads to poor prognosis and ultimately death. So our S4 drug targets this mutation by delivering a dominant negative mastermind protein that completely switches off the Notch pathway in cancer cells. So by switching off this mutation, we eradicate cancer and we cause the cancer cells to die. Our preclinical data set has demonstrated that our drug is safe and non-toxic and non-immunogenic. And also our in vivo work has demonstrated that delivering this drug significantly reduces the tumor growth and increases the survival rate. Our second product, AB1, is also based on the drug delivery platform, and it targets P53 mutations. P53 mutations are by far the most common mutations in cancer. They affect 60% of cancers. And in cancers that harbor these mutations, the pathway that is responsible for programmed cell death, apoptosis, is switched off. In this case, we are delivering a wild-type P21 protein, which is downstream of the normal P53 pathway, to switch back on this pathway and cause cells to commit suicide. And again, just like for S4, we have very convincing proof of concept studies that have shown that our drug is, again, safe and non-toxic, as we expected. And also, it can specifically target P53 mutated cancers. So it has the specificity. So it doesn't affect any cancers with other types of mutations, but P53 mutated cancers responded well to our treatment. Our in vivo work has shown that AB1 is much more effective than standard chemotherapy, but it's even more effective if it's delivered together with chemotherapy. And finally, our, as we like to call it, lockdown baby, is ABC drug. So we are using our antennapedia platform to deliver an inhibitory antibody into all cells that are infected by the virus. And this inhibitor antibody will target the MPRO enzyme, which is specific to coronaviruses. And it's and we believe that our drug will be highly effective against all the new variants, because the MPRO is present not only in all SARS-CoV-2 viruses, but also in all coronaviruses. And due to the nature of our drug delivery platform and the nature of the virus that actually literally affects all cell types, we'll be able to deliver an inhibitory antibody to all infected cells in a most safe and efficient way. We believe that vaccination rollout is obviously the key to combat this pandemic, but a therapeutic like ours will definitely be the ultimate weapon against it. All three of our products are found in different stages of development. The S4 product is probably at the most advanced stage and very, very close to phase 1-2 clinical studies. AB1 product is slightly behind and it's at manufacturing optimization stage, and ABC is still in concept stage. So we're asking for a small amount of money to continue our research and to continue with phase 1 studies for S4, completion of IND studies for AB1, and completion of proof of concept studies for ABC. Previously, we've been awarded Innovate UK grant to do some proof of concept studies that allowed us to be at this stage. And but we need more funding to continue. This is our dream team, comprising of world-renowned oncologists, scientists and drug developing specialists, as well as intellectual property specialists, and myself. And if you're interested in our platform, in our drugs, please feel free to contact either myself or our CEO, Professor Agamemnon Epenetos. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening.
Karim, does Anastasis Biotech have a booth? Can someone find you here tomorrow? But you're around. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So do we have, is it FIBO? Lovely. And are they coming to us virtually? Superb. Is that, Tom, is that our last one? Wow. We've done it. Well, almost. Actually, fingers crossed.
I'm not sure what.
Lovely. And who do we have from FIBO?
Hi, I'm Tiago Sampaio. I'm the R&D director, and we also have another team member here, which is a bit weird because I cannot see her on the platform. But
fantastic.
I hope she's there.
And you got slides?
Yes, we got slides.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to have 10 minutes. You'll have to keep your own time because I can't really get a signal to you. So just be sensitive to it.
I will share my.
And we'll be fine. All right. I'll leave you to it.
Okay. Now we're live. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone. So like I said, I'm Tiago Sampaio, the R&D director, and I have expertise in vaccine research since 2011. And we decided to create a company called Analysis Mode. So just a small correction there. FIBO is a different name. I can't
hear Tiago.
Just a second. I think everyone can hear. Okay, right? Yeah. Hello, can someone confirm if you can read, if you can listen?
Oh, now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you before.
Okay, all right. Anyways, yeah, let's going forward. All right, so we also have Belma here next to me. And
thank you. I'm Belma. I'm head of business development for Analysis Mode, and I have experience in in structural-based drug design, genetic variant creations, and overall genomics and genetics.
All right, so when we look at the problem, we are trying to solve the biomanufacturing scaling. And when we look at the diverse causes of it, especially when you look at the cell and gene therapy, I know you have some kind of treatment manufacturing that cost that will reach up to $1 million per patient, which is outrageous. And if you look what are the main drivers of this, is mostly the complexity of the bioprocessing, or when the scientists trying to do some kind of cell culture, they have to choose the right ingredients, and sometimes the mixture doesn't work. So there's a lot of things that will cause the failure, and it will drive the complexity and the cost up and up. So overall, we target the cell and gene therapy, but we also work with all the areas of biopharmaceutical as a whole.
So after we have talked with over 100 it's working in the field of therapy, we have come up with CellSim, and CellSim is an AI-based bioreactor digital twin. And what it does, it simulates thousands of experiment variants to help you scientists make smarter decisions in your experiment and process design. So you choose your initial setup. You can choose different options as environment controls, different media, cytokines, and similar. And in just 1 hour, after the simulation is done, CellSim is able to reduce vein time and cost per patient by 30%. On top of that, you can use the power of AI to collect, process, and curate the vast amount of data that is being produced during the biomanufacturing. And since you are going to simulate your experiment beforehand, you are going to avoid a lot of material waste and contamination. And you are going to have a chance to increase your batch yield by 5%. And in order to integrate all of this into your processes, you will have 0% upfront hardware cost, and you're going to have a really easy time integrating this. And another value that we are really proud of is that our AI will give you actionable process optimization recommendation, which can help you scale out or up your processes.
All right, I know that sounds a little bit like magic, but let's explain here. So if you're a cell therapy manufacturer, you most likely collect a lot of data, right? So one of the things that we do is we get this experimental data, from a cell culture, let's say 14 days data, and we add this into our solution. And our solution has this AI that would analyze that data and try to figure out what's the best combination of ingredients and what is the best bioprocess for you to have a higher yield or lower cost. And this process of running this AI would actually take only 1 hour simulation. And the end goal that we want to provide to the customers is that you can actually increase your capacity of therapy manufacturing. So we can actually bring you from 0 to 100, which is quite impressive when we look at each treatment costing $1 million. Just one last point, which is our solution is totally friendly for, let's say, a scientist that doesn't have any AI knowledge or any kind of technical knowledge. So it's a web-based, and we have all the AI complex things living on our side. So the end customer, the scientist, would only look at the actionable insights and the already digested information. And last year we were actually quite busy. So you see, we created this spin-off of the company 2 years ago. And last year we started joining many competitions in health tech because we had this amazing AI power, and we want to figure out how to better fit the market. And we found that the biomanufacturing, especially in cell therapy, it was a really good niche. So we managed to win 10 of these competitions worldwide. And we applied for a 4 million EU grant to help us bridge the further validation of the product. Even though it's already going through customer pilots, we want to bring more academic studies and have partnership with laboratories and so on. And also last year, actually this year, we won the EU accelerator for medical manufacturing, which was a very big point for us.
And during this session, it is where we actually identified what our target market is, to help with the growing number of cell and gene therapies being developed, and developers, big pharma companies are turning to CDMOs for help. And this in turn has put a lot of pressure on CDMOs, especially the ones who were dealing with preclinical development. They have a lot of different challenges that they are facing, from transitioning from research to manufacturing, from scaling out, choosing what type of bioreactor they are going to pick. And there's a lot of different choices, and the market is growing. There are at least 100 therapies being developed at the moment, and we are here to focus on CDMOs that are dealing with cell and gene therapies and biologics related to that. And then in addition to that, we want to partner with bioreactor manufacturers as Eppendorf or Thermo Fisher. We have been doing this quite extensively last period. We have talked with different people of different companies from the industry, including Eppendorf, Merck, Lonza, Takeda, Karolinska. And also we have partnered with academic institutions as Karolinska Institute and Uppsala University. Additionally, we are supported by different startup incubators as Helsinki Health Incubator Media Inception Program. We are really working into extending our network and our partners, and we are really hoping that this event is going to bring us more.
Now, to get started, to get the full benefit of our solution, you, as a biomanufacturer, you have to ask yourself the question if you are AI ready. What I mean is, do you have a data collection process, right? So if you already have this data curated, and if you have a standard of this data, then you're ready for going for a yearly license of the cell sim. So our product then would accept this data, which will be uploaded by the scientist or the responsible for the data handling, and would be able to get that data automatically, analyze it, and would run the simulations, trying to replicate, that experimental data into in silico simulations. And this will bring the value of reducing the cost per patient of the manufacturing up to 30%. And like I said, you can actually grow the capacity of making the treatments. But just one note, we only have 2 slots available. So if you're interested, you should go fast for this one. But on the other side, if you don't have the data, if you don't feel like you're AI ready, we can also help you, because we offer this Bioprocessing 4.0 3-month training, in which we actually will transform your data into value. So it's not much about using our platform, but we actually help you to get into this new edge of the industry. So for you to have a notion, the 14 days experimental data of cell cultures is valued at 200,000 euros. Yes, your data is worth a lot, and you should take advantage of that urgently. If you don't, someone else will do that for you. And for this training, we have 3 slots left, and we have this promotional price of 9,000 euros to get started. And overall, the team is very happy and waiting to work with all of you. And we have a combined expertise. So we have 50 years, but this would mean that we have industry expertise of artificial intelligence, of myself, vaccine research. We have genomics, have data set processing and curation. We even have a former director which was dealing with AI enterprise connections within the healthcare sector. So we have the know-how, and we have been into the field of being a lab technician or bench scientist. So we feel the pain and we know how to fix it. And just to go for the next one, for you that you're an investor. So right now we have a growth. It's quite a good growth. So we have estimated to be 300,000 revenue, and this is our 2nd year. And we just got this 4 million euro grant. But we still have plans to raise 1.2 million euros round for the end of next year. But let's keep in touch. We are looking more into scale up. But in any case, it's always good to meet you. So thank you. And just to keep on one last phrase, we want to scale the biomanufacturing with zero upfront cost, which everyone says is impossible, but we can make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. So that, I think, concludes the presentation of, I think we had 10 in all. Novelins, I think, wasn't able to pitch today, but hopefully you judges have had time to deliberate and cogitate. When are we presenting the results? We got that? Is that Tom? So we're presenting it today? All right. Okay. Fantastic. Good. So we were thinking around. So I guess you guys go off and have a coffee, deliberate, cogitate, and come back and spit it out. All right. Okay. So why don't we? Do you think we'll be ready at 5? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's all reconvene in 5. And even if you've presented and drag anyone else from to come back at 5, so that we can give the winners a good round of applause. All right.